Hello everyone and welcome to the next lesson. In today's lesson, we will focus on quality testing for futures or stock indexes. You will see how to select the best strategies for stock indexes that are most likely to be profitable in the future. So, what are we going to test today? If you watch the last lesson about quality testing for Forex, it's gonna be very similar. First of all, we will test out of sample. That is, the rest of the data that we haven't worked with yet, that we kept just for the purpose of testing. Again, if you remember, we set the build until the end of June 2019, and so we will use that leftover data for out of sample, where we will want return drawdown ratio greater than 1. The second test is made up of multiple steps, but we have a technique to do these all at once. And these are going to be tests for different markets, different time frames, and also test for slippage. So we will do a backtest on ET, RX, YR, then the slippage of 5 pips, and NM on 2 different time frames. And we want profit factor at least 1.1 for each test. The last group of tests are Monte Carlo tests. There are 2 of them, Monte Carlo trades manipulation and Monte Carlo retest methods, for which we will want return drawdown ratio to be greater than 50% of return drawdown ratio from the original data. But don't worry, I will of course explain everything during the actual test. But before we get into it, there is one very important thing. Today I'm going to work with 1,000 strategies, just as you will do, but I prepare these 1,000 strategies before, and these 1,000 strategies that you will see were already tested. Originally, I tested 10,000 strategies for all these tests we are going to do today. So, your numbers of strategies that pass individual tests are going to be much lower. So please keep in your mind that my results number are actually not from 1,000 strategies, but from 10,000. Now let's switch to strategy quant and start the first test out of sample. Here in the retester, we need to load the saved strategies. So if you have them saved, just upload them by simply clicking on the load icon, using Ctrl+A keyboard shortcut to select all the strategies from the folder, and click on select. Then select any strategy from the list, move to the tab Results, Strategy Config, and click on the button Apply Strategy Config. This is very important. Please keep that in your mind, because this way you load the same build config that was used while building the strategies in Builder, and now we need it here in retester. If you don't have your strategies saved and you still have them in the Builder, it's also very quick to move them into the retester. Just go to the Builder, select all the strategies, click on the button Retest, and choose if you want to copy the strategies or move. If you will copy the strategies, you will have some kind of backup in the case that you will accidentally delete these strategies from the tester. But at the same time, if you have average computer, I more recommend to move these strategies, because if you copy the strategies, it's more memory consuming. Okay, so it's time to start with the test. Like I mentioned, the first test is out of sample, and it's very easy to set up. First of all, go to the tab Cross-Check, and here switch off the option Higher Backtest Precision. Now we have to set the data. What I'm going to do is to click on Reset Dates and choose the start date on 1st of July 2019. In this table below, I choose the 1-minute data tick simulation. Now move to Ranking tab, where we switch off Average Trades per month and Return Drawdown ratio. Now we want just the profit factor and set it minimally to 1 and click on Save. Really, at this moment, that's the only condition we want. Then if we would switch on this option Delete Failed Strategies from Databank, then the strategies which would not meet that condition of profit factor 1 would be automatically deleted. It's absolutely up to you if you are going to leave it enabled or not. I'm not going to leave it enabled right now, and then I will show you how to very easily do it manually. But after all, it's really only up to you. So now I can go to the main tab Progress and click on Start button, and now we have to wait for the results. We are done with the test, and as you can see, there are 377 strategies that didn't pass the test and 623 strategies that passed the test. We will now delete the strategies that failed the test. It's very easy. Just click on Tools, select Failed, and that automatically selects the ones that failed. And now hit Delete button, click on OK, and just delete these strategies because they are useless to us. And now we can move on to the next test, and that is a test on different additional markets, test on slippage, and test on different additional timeframes. And we will do everything at once in one simple test. First of all, go to the tab Full Settings, to Ranking, and here turn off the profit factor, so we will not have any condition here. Now we have to save the data. Click on Reset Dates and switch to Testing Precision to select the time frame, and move to the Cross-Check tab. Here we have to turn on the Backtest on Additional Markets option. Click on the middle panel, where we will choose what markets we want to set. If you've got here like the default one, delete it to have it nice and clear. As we know, we will need a total of 6 markets that you want to test. Let me switch back to the slideshow just to show you that in our spreadsheet. And you see that we have 6 tests for ET, RX, YR for slippages, and NM for 2 different time frames. So get back to strategic one, and here we just click on Add Backtest 6 times right now. The first one is the symbol ET and MT5. Don't forget about MetaTrader 5, please. The second one is RX MT5. The third one is YR MT5. And the fourth, fifth, and sixth are NM MT5. For the first 3 tests, we do not set anything, and by NM we set by the first one, slippage of 5 pips. Another one, we change the time frame to M30. And the last one to H4. Now switch to the filtering tab, and all we need here is profit factor for each test. And because we want profit factor 1.1 for all the tests, it's very easy, and just click on Add Condition, choose profit factor, double click on the condition. In the first row, choose from backtest on additional markets. Line market set to every, and sample to full, and click on Save. Now I want this value to be greater than 1.1. So I want the profit factor of the test on additional markets to be greater than 1.1. Again, click on Save, go to Progress, and start the generating. And while the strategic one is working, I will explain you why we even make these tests. Here I have MetaTrader 4. It doesn't matter now. The important thing is that I can show you these charts. And now you are looking at the chart of Nasdaq, the technological index. And this is the market that we are building our strategies for. So why do we make these tests? It is because in this chart, we can see the market's development in the past on 1 hour time frame. And we need to build a strategy flexible enough so it would work not only on this one market, but also on a different market, like on Dow Jones Index. This is Dow Jones Index US 30, so 30 biggest stocks on American exchange. This second one is Nasdaq. As you can see, the characteristics of these two indexes are similar, but they of course have differences, like growing trends have different lengths and so on. And we want the strategy to work across the entire portfolio of markets, not just the Nasdaq index, but other stock indexes as well. And the same goes for the 1 hour time frame. Here we have a 1 hour time frame, but on the lower 30-minute or higher 4 hour time frame, it behaves differently. Basically, on the 30-minute time frame, the market is faster, and on the 4 hour time frame, it is slower. That's why we want the strategy to work in both slower and faster markets. So by running these tests, we ensure that the strategy can cope with a different data structure, with different cycles, with a different order of those cycles, and with a different market speed. That's why tests in different markets are really, really crucial and most important, and why we put so much emphasis on this particular test, because they give us a huge amount of information about the flexibility of the strategy. You could say that the more markets a strategy works for, the better. Now let's get back to the strategic ones where our tests are done. And you can see that 613 strategies failed and only 10 passed. So most of the strategies did not pass, and that's absolutely normal. You could say that it is a lot, but it is not, because don't forget, it is after 6 tests. And now we are back to the leading strategies that have failed. Tools, select, failed, hit delete button, and OK. Now we are going to make the exact same test again, but with 1 minute data tick precision. So go to Full Settings, tap Cross Checks, double click on the middle panel, and for every market we change the precision to 1 minute. So for the first one, second one, third one, and here do not forget to set back the slippage 5 pips. It is because when you change the precision type, this value is reset for fifth one and the last one. Well, and we run the test again. So again, let's wait for the results. Now you see that 6 strategies failed and 4 strategies passed. Again, delete the strategies that failed. Tools, select, failed, delete, and OK. This is still the same. And we can check one of the strategies, for example, this one. If you notice, there is a drop-down menu in the left corner where we can select exactly how we want to display the charts. We can choose each market separately. Here is our main market NM. Here, YR, RX, ET, and NM on different time frames. Then we have here portfolio, where we have all the curves embedded in one chart, or portfolio parts only, where we can see all the individual curves. And now it's time for Monte Carlo tests, where we have 2 types. First of all, we need to go to the full settings tab, to data, and we have set the full range of data, and now also turn on 1 minute precision, because this testing must be really precise. Now move to the cross checks and turn off the backtest on additional markets option. Now we are going to do a test of Monte Carlo trades manipulation and Monte Carlo retest methods. We will find the first test in the second row in the first section, and the second test also in the second row, but in the section below in the second section. The difference is that in the first case we do only 1 backtest, and then we do simulations on the historical backtest. This test takes the backtest and randomly skips like 10% of the trades. It will do this 200 times and calculate some statistics from that. In the second case, we do maybe like 200 backtests for each strategy, so it is much more time consuming. It's because you can't simulate this from an already completed backtest, so strategic one has to take each strategy and do 200 backtests on it. And that's why we always start with the first Monte Carlo test, Monte Carlo trades manipulation. So now turn on Monte Carlo trades manipulation option, click on the middle panel and turn off the first option that is checked here. Randomly skip trades with probability 10% is on. Of course, we can change the probability, but in our experience 10% is fine. And we want 200 simulations here. In filtering, we will delete the conditions we have here defaultly, and instead we have to add return drawdown ratio and compare it to return drawdown ratio as well. Now open the value on the left and select Monte Carlo trades manipulation, confidence level 95%. This value must be greater than or equal to the value on the right, which we set. Main data, sample, full, turn on apply percentage ratio and select the value of 50%. So we want return drawdown ratio from a Monte Carlo trades manipulation test with a confidence level of 95% to be greater than or equal to 50% of the original return drawdown ratio. It maybe sounds complicated, but when we will have the results, I will explain to you and it will be much more clearer. Now again, I will move to the progress tab and start generating. It should be really quick because we only have a few strategies left here. It's done, all 4 strategies passed, and you can find the result of the Monte Carlo simulation under the Monte Carlo test tab when you open the strategy. On the chart, you see a blue thick line, and that is the main backtest, the primary strategy. And around the blue thick line, we have 200 other thin curves, just those 200 simulations where we skipped 10% of the trades each time. So strategy 1 does 200 simulations and gives away 10 trades randomly from each simulation. This measures the sensitivity of the strategy to a specific trade, and then it calculates the confidence levels from that. A confidence level of 95% means that 95% of these results has this or better results. When we look at confidence level 100, that's actually the worst result. And we want the strategy to have at least half of the original written drawdown ratio at the 95% confidence level. Now, delete the failed strategies if there are any. And at this point, we're down to the last test, Monte Carlo retest method, which is very time consuming. So, switch to the full settings and the cross check, where we have to turn off Monte Carlo trades manipulation and turn on Monte Carlo retest methods, which will be more time consuming. I will click on the middle panel and I will just select the last option from the list, just this one. Randomize strategy parameters with probability 10% and max change 20%. I will set both probability and max change to 20. And again, I set 200 simulations. If you had a slower computer, you don't have to put 200 simulations. You can put 10, then 20, then 50, then 100 and 200. I will switch backtest precision to 1 minute data and enable the use full example option. Now I will set up the filtering, which will be exactly the same as in the previous test. I want a written drawdown ratio from a Monte Carlo retest methods with a confidence level of 95% to be greater than or equal to 50% of the original written drawdown ratio. So I open the value on the left and select the backtest from Monte Carlo retest methods. Confidence level 95%. This value must be greater than or equal to the value on the right, where we set main data, full sample, plus we turn on apply percentage ratio and select a value of 50%. And now let's run it. While it's running, I'm going to open one random strategy here and I'm going to move to the source code tab. Here I can see how the strategy works, which parameters it uses and so on. It may look complicated, but believe me, if you spend more time with strategy quant, more time with strategy building and everything, you will get into it really quickly. In the left corner, there is a drop-down menu, and here you can choose if you want to see the source code in easy language for multi-charts or for Forex or for MetaTrader 5. It's just like source code type. But what we are interested in now is the pseudo code, because that describes the logic of the strategy very, very simply. And you can see that For example, this strategy uses some parameters. This one uses lowest on long entry signal and highest on short entry signal. It's not like relevant at the moment what it uses, but the important thing is that you can see some parameters. You can see here also stop loss and profit target, stop loss with 110 pips and profit target with 270 pips. And what this last test of ours does is it takes those parameters that you can see here and changes them by plus or minus 20% with a probability of 20%. So it takes the fifth parameter and changes it by 20%. For example, if it takes this parameter that has a value of 382, it will change it so that the value is between 306 to 682. You can use probability from 20 to 30%. It's basically up to you. The difference is not so huge then, but we use 20. Because it happens quite often that the strategy is built in such a way that it only works with the specified parameters. But when other parameters are broken or they are changed, that strategy doesn't work, and that's really wrong because it would not work in real life, in live trading. So this test for us is the most important, but unfortunately it's very time consuming. So we have to wait for the result of our last test. And finally, we have our final strategies. When I open the result of the strategy that didn't pass, you can see that the results can be really bad. And on the other hand, you can see how the strategy that passed looks like. Well, and there is nothing left to do but remove the strategies that failed. So in the end, we are left with only a few strategies out of the total number, but that's absolutely fine because, as I mentioned many times before, we are looking for the quality, not quantity. And also, one thing, I mentioned it at the beginning of this lesson, but please don't forget that I work with 1,000 strategies that I tested already before. So if you have nothing left out of your 1,000 strategies, don't be worried and just test another bunch of strategies in the same way. In the following lesson, we will work with the strategies that left, that we went through the testing successfully, and we will filter them even more, so we will deploy the best of the best to a demo account. At the beginning, we highly do not recommend deploy strategies directly to live accounts, but test them first. And that's all for this lesson. Of course, in case of any questions, please contact us at our email lab@strategicone.com or reach us in the discussion forum. Have a great day and see you soon again.